today's guest, and I like to make sure we give enough time, especially for someone like Dr. Carolyn Dean, because not only are her credentials, voluminous and great, but she has so much experience and knowledge that I want to make sure that we give plenty of time. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a background, and then I'm going to let Dr. Dean launch in. She has, for over 25 years, she's an MD and a naturopath. She's been inspiring and motivating people to be, of course, their healthiest and their best. She is a health expert. If you go to her website and you look at her materials and all the books she's written, this woman does know what she's talking about. She was one of the first health professionals to see the coming epidemics that we have in obesity, diabetes, and many of the chronic health issues, and saw that the depletion as a result of modern farming, the depletion of vital nutrients and minerals from our soils and foods as a root cause of America's health problems. Today, this is going to be an emphasis of the show, which honestly most people just simply do not understand the importance of sometimes what seems like a simple thing, but is a really, really big deal. So today's show is her book titled The Magnesium Miracle, which is and I'll let her explain that. The first title, it's a rewrite. It's an update to her original book on this topic. And then we're going to let her share pretty much everything she knows about this, how magnificent it is. And I can tell you from my own experience, a long, long time ago when I was sick, how big a deal magnesium made in my life. So today I continue to use it. And I know she has some specific products that we're going to let her talk about as well. So I'm going to bring her on the air, and we're going to launch. And I will be launching the chat right after I bring her on the air. Hang on one second. Are you with me, Dr. Dean?
Absolutely. I am with you. And
good deal.
Janet, did you know that love is a force field?
Oh, yes, it is. It's a frequency. It's its own matrix. You're absolutely right.
So
I get to emanate that every day.
Exactly. I think it's wonderful. You have the name, and you have the force field, and you have my attention, and I'm just right there, slammed up beside you.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled. You have, when I got all your information, it was an easy yes because, you fit right in with the emphasis and the focus and the mission of my show, and again, your knowledge as I began to look into your background and all that you do, is just, like I said, so amazing. So that's why I want to make sure I give you plenty of time because you have so many things you could discuss. I mean, we're going to focus on the Magnesium Miracle today, but your knowledge is huge. And I know you live in Hawaii, correct?
Correct. We live in Maui, and we're having a cold snap right now. The temperature, instead of 83 degrees, is about 80 degrees, and we're all suffering.
Wow. Oh, I feel so sorry for you.
Exactly. Well, every
beautiful.
5 or 6 years, the winter brings more rain than usual, so we don't mind it, but it's so sad for the tourists. You have your wedding planned for a year, and you come here and it's cloudy, so it's
crazy.
It's so sad. But for the most part, I live in paradise and just love it here. I do all my work on the phone or internet, so I could live anywhere, and this is the best place to live in the world, I think.
Yes, I've been there many times. I'm very familiar with Maui. Maui's really different, beautiful. Do you live on the mountain, or are you down below?
Down below, between the mountain and the ocean, we have an ocean view, but we're 12-minute walk from the water in an area called Wailea.
I know where Wailea is. Yes, beautiful area, gorgeous. Well, that's fascinating and neat. I knew that you did primarily phone, Skype, internet, so I just wanted to let people know that you're accessible and all that information, and we'll give that at the end of the show. Website, how to reach you, your organization that you have about magnesium and the split. We'll get that. Let's kind of, before we go into the book, your story. I always like to know how people get passion. Why do they do it? Most people, doctors, practitioners of kind, usually have a great story as to what motivated them, particularly a doctor, what you do, and move into the field of more alternative, although I think what you do bridges, I think you do both sides of it very well. Tell me about that story. Let's have the listeners, I think it helps them to really engage with you.
Yes, I've been studying health, nutrition, lifestyle for 46 years.
Wow.
I started with Prevention Magazine, and then when I went back to school for biology, I was going to do biology genetics and, kind of isolate the stupidity gene and remove it from the human genome.
That's a good one.
And then I happened to be in all the pre-med classes, and people kept saying, hey, we just got our acceptance letters. Did you get accepted? I said, well, I feel pretty accepted. But they were talking about med school. And I said, these young whippersnappers, they don't have a clue. So I just marched over to the Dean of Medicine's office, found my old guidance teacher there, forced her to enter me in the pool because she had told me I could be an executive secretary or a nurse in high school.
Oh.
So I got into
God.
medicine the next semester. I mean, not because she put me in, but I had all the prerequisites and the marks and, the attitude. So I got in, and, they did not dissuade me from natural medicine. They tried to because, from day one it was don't refer to chiropractors. They didn't even have naturopaths in Canada back then in the mid-'70s. But I just learned so much. And then from there I went on to naturopathic training up in Toronto. And when I started my practice 35 years ago, it was in a natural medicine practice with the ability to prescribe, or I'd go in on surgery with my patients to protect them from the knife, and I had a great time. I was there before chronic fatigue even began, or AIDS before it began. I was there before the supplement industry became this great commercial juggernaut that it is today. It's incredible the number of supplements that people are on that they haven't got a clue what they're taking, and they're just, they're taking it out of fear. So I come back to magnesium and minerals, the basic structure and function and electrical conductivity of the body as where you begin, not what you kind of ignore because you can't afford them after you buy all kinds of expensive supplements. So I'm pretty basic. I'm very common sense and just stick with the basics. And magnesium, as you were mentioning, is the most basic, the most necessary mineral, the mineral that does the most in the body. It's responsible for 700 to 800 different enzyme systems in the body that run just about everything.
And again, what people, which is, of course, why you are a health educator and why I do what I do and the show I do, is with all the information, and it amazes me, that is available today, people are still ignorant of their own body and how it works and how it functions, and some of the very most basic things, such as, and I love the title because it's a miracle, although it shouldn't be, but it is because you're right. We have depleted everything. We've, synthesized everything, and we don't get natural resources. With me? Did I lose you?
I'm here.
Dr. Dean?
I'm definitely
Oh,
here.
good. I thought I lost
here.
You there for a second. So now you said 700 to 800 enzymes are part of what the magnesium, we'll call it chain, support. So these are. Go ahead.
Yes. They create energy in the body. These enzymes are not the digestive enzymes. People sometimes make that, dissociation. But it's systems like creating ATP, which is the energy packet in the body. If you don't have ATP, you don't have energy. And in the Krebs cycle, for example, there are 10 steps. You need magnesium in 7 of those steps. And yet you'll get people saying, oh, well, you should take this particular part of the chain and it will help, or that particular part, and forgetting that magnesium does 7 of the 10 steps, or it digests your carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. It helps balance your cholesterol. It's actually a natural statin. We know it helps the muscles relax, and it's kind of an antidote to calcium, where calcium tightens up and contracts muscles. magnesium relaxes them, and you have to have that push-pull. But in the past couple of decades, where women especially have been told to take thousands of milligrams of calcium, they're going into contraction. They're calcifying. They're calcifying their arteries, and they're making gallstones and kidney stones and heel spurs and fibromyalgia and breast tissue calcification, which leads them to a mammogram that says, oh, you have calcification in your breast, you could have cancer. And that's become that DCIS, pre-cancer, that isn't even a cancer at all. It's from taking calcium supplements.
Right. It's huge. You're there. But these are really important facts because people just do not know it. And I think your book, now I, again, did not get to read it entirely, and I will. But just, I love the way you've set up the, and I know this is what, the second or third edition that you've rewritten?
Well, the third edition is out tomorrow. You are helping me launch my third edition, and it's not. It's called an updated and revised edition. It's got about 80 pages of new information, and it's phenomenal what's been happening with magnesium. And you know, one of the scary things is that the commonly used drugs in our society have fluoride molecules in them. It makes them more powerful. And so they put fluoride in to make these drugs stronger. But what fluoride does is it irreversibly binds up magnesium so that you don't have magnesium to do all its 800 different functions. But a magnesium fluoride compound is very brittle, and it will deposit in bones and make your bones brittle, deposit in tendons and cause tendon rupture, which we know is a horrible side effect of Cipro. Cipro is an antibiotic. It has one fluoride molecule, and I have people coming to me just desperate because their life has been, destroyed because their tendon has ruptured, they can't walk, and they're in severe pain. You have Prozac, which has 3 fluoride molecules. Paxil has 1. Lipitor, the cholesterol drug, has 1. Flecainide, now get this, Janet, this is crazy. Flecainide is an antiarrhythmic drug. Magnesium is important for arrhythmias. I got an award in 2012 from an arrhythmia society in the UK for my work with magnesium because magnesium settles the heart down. It relaxes it. It stops the extra contraction from calcium. Well, flecainide has 6 fluoride molecules. So you're taking a drug for an arrhythmia that causes arrhythmias. And people who've had surgery, the anesthetic that is used first, you inhale it with the mask, and then they give you IV anesthetic. Well, desflurane, the inhaled anesthetic, has 6 fluorine molecules. And what I hear very often from my clients is that I was never well since a certain surgery because the anesthetic will completely sponge up all your magnesium, and it's very hard to recover when you're in a tight, contracted state. Get this. I'm sorry, I'm just being so excited
I love it.
Here. But
Go. No, it's great. Go ahead. Stop you if I want.
Okay. Prevacid, an antacid, has 3 fluoride molecules, whereas what causes a lot of heartburn is a spasming of the stomach, a pressure and spasming of the diaphragms, the lower esophageal reflex will go into spasm from magnesium deficiency. So they give you Prevacid to kill your stomach acid, and it takes away any hope of your own body dealing with it because it binds up your magnesium. And even diflucan, an antifungal, one of my other big topics is yeast overgrowth. Well, diflucan has 2 fluoride molecules, so it's going to bind up your magnesium. And they're giving diflucan out like candy to autistic kids because they know they're affected by yeast overgrowth. The Celebrex drug for arthritic pain has 3 fluoride molecules, And even the side effects that they list: increased risk of heart attack, muscle aches and pains, nerve pain, sensation of pins and needles, and stiff neck. That describes magnesium deficiency right there.
Well, if they could find a way to patent magnesium in some manner, then we wouldn't even be having this discussion. But because they can't, then they use other methods, which, again, most people don't know. They go to their doctors and they just don't. They don't know. And, again, I think what you're doing is empowerment. You're trying to say, look, not against drugs, but know your body and know what. And here's something: no doctor tell you that magnesium is not good for the body. So you're not promoting something that's potentially dangerous. You're talking about mineralization. I'd like to go back because I do energy work, and most anybody who does what you do, and you talk around it. It's very basic and you common sense. The electrical conductivity of the body, you can't even get a charge without having your proper mineralization. Talk about that a little bit, because I think people do not realize they are a physical and they are an electrical body. And in order to have those, I always call it balancing the equation, you have to have a charge.
Exactly. And
talk about that a little bit, and then you can dive in anywhere you want to go. I mean, I was going to take you down your list of contents because, you hit everything, but go there and then just let that take you on whatever river it finds its way through.
Right. Well, people will realize that the body is electric when they think about an electrocardiogram. You put that on, and it picks up the electrical reaction of your heart. An EEG of the brain picks up the electrical activity of your brain. So we are electric. Our nerves carry charge, and in order to create a charge, magnesium actually opens up the nerve cells, allows a little calcium to go in, fire off a charge, and then the nerve conduction flows along throughout the nerve and creates an action. If you don't have magnesium, the cell ion channel will allow too much calcium to get into that nerve and cause irritability and a firing that's erratic, and can actually lead to cell death or a twitch. People will get an eyelid twitch or a twitch in their face, or a tick, they can call it. So you can get a nerve twitching or a muscle spasm. My worst magnesium deficiency symptom was leg cramps, even worse than my heart palpitations, because the leg cramps were very painful. So you've got this situation where the body, we know it needs minerals, not just magnesium, but all the other minerals. What happens with the minerals in the body, they're supposed to go into the cells. Magnesium opens up the cells to most minerals and then closes off the ion channel when you've got enough, and it plays this wonderful role. So if you don't have magnesium, your minerals don't get in properly. If you don't take minerals, then you're not going to get them in the cells either. The cell minerals will pull water in behind them to do, it's like a washing machine. They create all the metabolic functions in there, and then you excrete the dirty water, and all is well. If you don't have minerals, then your water doesn't go in your cells. Your cells are dehydrated, but your body is all sloppy with water. You have edema, you have cellulite, you're all squishy and puffy because the water is not where it's supposed to be, which is in your trillions of cells. So people will say, I drink and drink and drink water and I'm still thirsty. It goes in one end and out the other. Well, when you're flushing your body with that water, what it's doing as well is pulling minerals out of your body. So, number one is to replenish your minerals. Of course, many people know this and they do try, but I've already mentioned about calcium. Calcium is only about 4% absorbed. So, as you said earlier, Janet, I finally, after 45 years, got involved with products because I myself could not take magnesium without getting the laxative effect. So I had these heart palpitations, and I had horrible leg cramps. So I'd take magnesium to try to fix them, and I'd get diarrhea, which just got rid of everything. You know, I was losing weight, and I, in the second edition of the book, I talked about using transdermal magnesium and doing Epsom salt baths, and, you know, that helped to a certain extent. For 10 years, I tried to get magnesium companies interested in getting magnesium in a form that was non-laxative, and finally I did it myself. What the proprietary process is to break magnesium down into picometer size, and it turns out that the cell mineral ion channels that allow magnesium into the cells are picometer in size. It also turns out that the small little hair roots of plants are picometer in size. And those little plant rootlets will only allow picometer-sized minerals to be absorbed into the plant, which then become, you know, what some people erroneously call organic minerals. I mean, minerals are always inorganic, but in a plant, they're the right size, and that's why they work for us. But here's something fascinating. Recently at a conference, I was approached by some people who are doing this incredible 140 ounces of green drink a day and complaining of heart palpitations and leg cramps, just like I had. And I gave them my magnesium product. It's called Remag, and my electrolyte minerals called Relight. And within hours, this person was back saying that all their symptoms were gone. And how could it be that they were mineral deficient when they were eating all these great green organic plants? And I said that organic does not mean that the farmer puts minerals on the soil.
That's right.
And that's
right.
The bottom line. If your farmer isn't knowledgeable.
Yeah, it's true. And you can't, unfortunately, expect, unless you grow it yourself and you're such an expert that you know all of this, that you know the actual way it was grown. You must find ways to supplement. But again, I think the basics are, people just don't understand how important these very basic things are to our very body's makeup. This is how we are made, and without proper supplementation. Now, you hit on a topic that's fascinating to me, but the absorption factor, that somebody says they'll come in to see me and they're taking their minerals, and I can see through I have a lot of different technologies that can do it's readings, it's resonance. It's not a diagnosis, but it will show a snapshot, a window into their electrical or energetic field. And mineralization and looking at foods and allergens are all a big part of that. Almost every person that sits in my chair, that they're usually coming in to see me because they're stressed, but they don't absorb that, and yet they might look balanced on one side, but I can go right to the mineral page and vitamin page, and I'm saying, and that's I'm taking this, they're not getting it. It is not absorbing in the system. Their body, even if they are taking it, either they're using a product that is not, it may not be a good quality. Their body isn't able to absorb it, or they simply have barriers to the body simply not letting them, and there are many reasons for that, as you know. But talk about, and I know your products do that. How did you come to, because you couldn't get it somewhere else, so you created it. So explain to the listeners, what's the big deal about the size of it, how it gets into the body in the right way so that, A, you don't have that laxative effect. How do they know how much to take and which products are good? Because as we know, our information overloaded world, when they begin to look at this, where do they start? So obviously we're going to send them to you, but tell them why it's so important, why this size and getting into the system and absorption is a big deal.
Yes, and it's been difficult with magnesium because there has not been a good blood test to follow. When you get an electrolyte blood panel from your doctor, it's got calcium and chloride and sodium, but it does not have magnesium. And that's because magnesium is so vitally important that it always has to stay in a tight little range, which means if your serum magnesium level goes down, a fraction, then your body immediately draws magnesium out of storage sites in your muscles and your bone. So magnesium always looks good until you just totally fall apart, because it's necessary for the heart. The heart has the highest amount of magnesium in the whole body, so you got to figure it's important. The heart is the biggest, real big active muscle in the body, and muscles need magnesium to do the relaxation phase. So magnesium is always going to look good in a serum blood test, and doctors figure that out a long time. Well, it always looks good, I guess it's okay, and then they walk away. But what I have started to tell people on my blogs, and I was able to get it in this third edition, is to follow their magnesium levels with a magnesium RBC test. RBC stands for red blood cell, and you can actually do it yourself. There's a online lab called Request a Test. It's requestatest.com. You can go there, and you can, for $49, which is the amount for a copay with your doctor.
Absolutely.
And in 72 hours, you have your results. Now, here's the kicker, though. The range of magnesium RBC in the sick population, which is what ranges are, they just test the population, put you on a bell curve, and yada, yada, yada. Well, the range is 4.2 to 6.8, but you want to be optimum at 6.0 to 6.5. You want to be way up at the top. And if you have that range, 6.0 to 6.5, then you're saturated and you stay where you are. If you're not saturated and you've been taking magnesium pills, then you're not absorbing them, and you go for something that's absorbing, like with my Relight and Remag. With Remag, I have the most incredible story of a man who for 7 years was on IV magnesium because he had a magnesium wasting problem.
Yes, I read that. Go tell it. It's a great story.
It's amazing. 7 years, 50-year-old guy. He, when he took magnesium pills, he would get such horrible diarrhea that he'd lose everything. So he was on an IV 3 times a week of magnesium, so he had a permanent shunt in his arm. It would get infected. He would get blood clots. He almost died a couple times because of the IV. And they had to finally pull it because it got infected again, and they were going to put a permanent line in his neck, and he'd have to go to the hospital to have his IVs instead of at home. So he heard about, or his wife, how the wife takes care of the health in the family. She found me, didn't even know about Remag, but says, what can we do? So I said, get Remag, get it into him, and within a week he was feeling so much better, and his next blood test was better than being on IV magnesium. So he was liberated from the dangerous but necessary IVs. So I know from him and a couple of other people who'd been on IV magnesium that Remag is absorbed even better than IV. And just to roll back to a couple of things you said earlier, you said there's no patent on magnesium. Well, they started to do that. They patented a magnesium L-threonate called Magtine recently. They did animal study. I don't know if it was mice or rats, and they say it's much better absorbed, and this is the one you need to take. It gets into the brain and all this. And actually, I kind of did a little digging about it and talked about it in the new book. And I talked about the fact that when you look at the details of the study, they said this product is absorbed 7% better than others. So that was their criteria. It's 7% better. And the headlines on the product read like, if you don't take this magnesium, it's all over. You have to take one Yeah, because it's the only one that absorbs into the brain, or compared to others it is, but 7% better absorption. And up to this point we've been seeing magnesium oxide at 4%, which was used in most of the early magnesium studies. This 4% absorbed magnesium was helping people with migraines and seizures and all kinds of brain symptoms. So we know magnesium will get to the brain, if it wants to, even, it might be lower doses than say my product. But you know what I'm saying? It's like scaring people that you have to get this one. Nothing else works as well. And then, when I started researching it and asked my manufacturer about it, he said, the price of this product has just escalated over the past couple of months. It's like they grab their audience and now they'll just put the price up. And that's what happens.
Yes. Yeah, no, it does because they can, not because it's right, not because it's for the best benefit of the person. Again, it's ignorance on the consumer part, and then they use fear tactics. I'm sure you've seen those great commercials on television for a variety of. I see a new drug. I'm not a great TV watcher, but when I do, there's almost a commercial every time I turn it on that there's a new drug, and they list. Of course, there's always these happy people, right? And it's going to change your life. That's what they put out. But then they list all the things that it could do to you. And they're horrible. I mean, they're horrible. But people take them anyway.
Right,
it's insane.
Because we want a pill, and this is where your work is so important because it's helping people understand that they have to be intuitive about their own body. You cannot put a doctor across the table from you who talks to you for 7 to 10 minutes who will ever know, a smidgen about you or who you are, but you make them the authority over your body. And I know they have that authority position, and you're afraid to say, go fly a kite because, they're the ones that may be in charge of saving your life in the hospital. But everything has gone completely askew when we give our authority over to a doctor who is trained to diagnose disease and treat it with drugs. And that's all they know. I went to medical school just like they did, and I was there in biochemistry, but my ears were open because I'd already been reading Prevention magazine, and I saw those pathways. I saw the vitamins and minerals in every metabolic step in our body, and yet they were totally ignored in clinical application to the point where, as I said earlier, we're taking all these drugs. Even a nasal spray, Flonase, has 3 fluoride molecules. So you've got a situation now where drugs are, antidoting all the nutrients in our body, and we don't even know
That's
it.
Right.
And what's happening in the media and on a lot of these health websites is they're trying to act like vitamins and minerals are drugs. They're trying to say they're dangerous. I mean, and these are fake studies. They're faked headlines because they're trying to make vitamins and minerals prescription under the doctors who will be know nothing about nutrients, who will be in control of these prescriptions. And it goes back to Codex Alimentaris, actually. Do you know about Codex?
Oh, yes, I do, very much, yeah.
Right.
So I talk about it.
Right. I talk about that in my book, Death by Modern Medicine. You'll love that book. We can go into that at another time. But
we have to have you back on this show.
Right. I went to 2 Codex meetings, one in Bonn, Germany, and one in Rome, and I saw the writing on the wall. Codex is an organization, World Health Organization, joined by the World Trade Organization to standardize supplements and food additives toxins that are quote unquote allowed in the food. So what they were doing is, allowing the highest levels of arsenic in fish, for example, and regulating to the lowest levels of nutrients so that, and this is their quote, that they won't interfere with drugs. They don't want nutrients to overtake drugs.
Actually said that. Oh my God.
Yeah, as if it's protecting us because drugs are so good and we don't want the nutrients to interfere with drugs. And now you'll see that on a lot of websites where they'll list the horrible side effects of magnesium, and then at the end they may say, well, this only happens very occasionally when someone has an IV overdose of magnesium. Yet, the headline, is glaring, and people are terrified because they don't know anything about nutrients either. So they'll listen to Mr. Google before they'll listen to their own body.
That's a great quote. I have to quote you on that one because it's absolute truth. They will listen to Mr. Google before they'll listen to their own body. Most people that come to see us in our center are people who are looking to invest in their health, and that's what you see. You see people who seek you out because they're tired of, I had an older lady, not terribly old, but just late 60s, that she goes, I'm tired of being on 5 and 6 drugs. I can't get my doctor to explain anything to me. I'm overweight. I don't feel well. And yet all they want to do is give me more drugs. And, at her age, she's like, I don't care. I said, well, you're really talking about empowerment. She goes, yeah, I want a doctor who'll talk to me, who'll explain things to me. It's never too late. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Dean? Never too late to start. Miracles can happen.
Absolutely, Jan. I have this story about a 93-year-old who went off her blood pressure meds because magnesium was working for her. And, the story is that same thing. She got tired of going to doctors and feeling like she was always getting a sales pitch for their drugs. She said she read my article. She told her pharmacist to send her some magnesium with her drugs. And she found her blood pressure went down, her heartbeat went regular, and so she just weaned herself off her blood pressure medications. And she said she thought that was great, but then, within 2 months, she found that she could get shoes on that she thought she'd never wear again because her ankles and feet were so swollen because she was missing minerals. And I probably told her to take a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt as well. I'll tell people to take 1/8 or 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt in their drinking water to get some of the other minerals. But I'm also, working with my Relight products for 12 other very important minerals. Because here's one thing that happens to a lot of people. A lot of women, their adrenal burnout and their thyroid is low. After you have 2 children, your thyroid gland is pretty low if you aren't taking the thyroid minerals. And what happens with allopathic doctors and alternative doctors is they'll give hormone replacement. They'll wait until the thyroid is pretty punked out and the blood tests are bad and there's a lot of symptoms, and here's your hormone. And the people I talk to that just have so much trouble regulating this hormone because it's just giving them, the end stage of their problem. There are 6 minerals that are necessary in the formation of your thyroid hormones, and it's iodine for sure. But then, there's a whole cult based around taking high-dose iodine as if that's the cure for everything and ignoring the 5 other minerals. You need selenium to transfer your T4 into the usable T3. You need molybdenum and manganese and zinc. You also need magnesium and probably boron and copper. You probably need, a dozen minerals for the thyroid, but when you just take thyroid hormones, you don't get anywhere. When you just take iodine, you often get an overdose.
Yeah, that's right. There are more doctors. The doctor I work with, she has your concepts as well that understand this, that mineralization, nutraceuticals are the first step. But what a lot of people don't know, which is what you're saying, is when they go to their doctor, the tests that they're being given, they'll go to their doctor and say, my doctor said my thyroid's okay, but I don't feel right. Well, they don't understand that the test value is based on if you have Hashimoto's disease or thyroid toxicosis. It is not looking at a pre-disease state. It is looking at it as a disease state. So, as you say, after a child or any number of stressful things, that needs a little boost, some mineralization that would support it. Instead, you go to your doctor and they say nothing's wrong, walk out the door, get nothing, and then it continues if it doesn't change, and then down the road you are going to have Hashimoto's or thyroid toxicosis or whatever number of other issues. When all along, if you had simply taken these simple preventions, it would have been okay. Am I missing anything there?
That's exactly right. And the other things involved are, for example, the thyroid will be blocked by fluoride if you have fluoride in the water supply or you've taken the drugs I talked about. But taking enough magnesium will help that as well. You'll also have problems with the hormones being blocked by yeast toxins. So I make a big deal about yeast overgrowth and the people who are taking a lot of antibiotics, and they kill off their good and bad bacteria, and yeast will overgrow. It gets into the intestines. You'll get a leaky gut, and then the malabsorption problems and the gluten problems show up because your intestines are so irritated. And then, I'll hear reports from clients who'll say, well, my naturopath said that, not to bother taking any nutrients right now until we heal up the gut with, all these expensive formulas. And you need minerals to heal up the gut, but you need them to be absorbed before they hit the intestines, which is what I, had to work with. I had to get a bioavailable, 100% absorbed minerals that wouldn't get that far down into the intestines so that they wouldn't be absorbed. So it's I've been at this for 47 years, so it's, a lot of information that is common sense to me, but it's also knowing all the different factions and realizing that, sometimes people just get caught into one area, like, high-dose iodine. It's all about that, and then so they defend it to the death. Whereas, let's just look at the whole picture here. And I know some people could say, well, you're all about magnesium. Well, not really. I'm working with all the minerals and trying to, be eclectic enough. I know with a lot of people, they like some forms of magnesium for this gentle laxative effect. And I tell people, look, take magnesium in baths, Epsom salts, take magnesium oil and spray it, because when you put magnesium oil or you can spray Remag on the skin, you stimulate DHEA receptors in the skin and you help your hormones that way. And then, do the magnesium RBC test and prove to yourself whether or not you're getting saturated. My thesis is that most people do not get the therapeutic effect of magnesium before they get the laxative effect, and then they stop. I mean, there are still practitioners that say, well, just take magnesium up to the point you get the laxative effect, and you have enough. Well, that would have killed me because I.
That is not true. Yeah, exactly. Right. Now, your book is comprehensive, and I want listeners, no matter where they find this, because you go through, this goes so fast. We could talk for another hour, but you not only give all the different diseases that are associated with magnesium, and I'll let you mentioned chronic fatigue syndrome, fibro, environmental illnesses, asthma, so forth. But then you give an eating plan, you give the testing, which you've mentioned here, and of course I will recap all this in the blog for listeners. If they don't have time to listen right away, they can catch all of this. And then you also mention homeopathic magnesium. And then you give that. So go ahead and talk about that a little bit. And then tell me about your products, where they can get them, because we're about 10 minutes away now, so I want to make sure they know how to get a hold of it. It'll all be posted, but I want them to know about the magnesium, but you also mentioned the electrolyte. Is it the electrolyte
right,
product?
Remag and Relight. People can just go to my website, Janet, drcarolyndean.com, and click on the banners there and get to the websites.
Okay.
And actually, I have 2 books, free books that people can download under Knowledge Base on that website, and under that is the manufacturer's dissertation on how he makes the picometer products and makes them bioavailable. So it's all wonderful information, and actually people will also come across. I haven't even talked to you about this, but you'll love this RNA drops product. We have a barley sprouts, fermented barley sprouts made with a recipe from the Bible that is like the shewbread in the Bible, and it's non-gluten. We have it tested every generation. We have 91 generations now. We keep a bit of the last batch and put it into the next batch, so it's got this harmonic of 91 generations, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's creating miracles every day, and I don't like to talk about it too much because it's not quote-unquote scientific. I did write up a patent on it called the iCell, ICELL, and the patent is sort of, I put it to the side right now because, the science behind it is very difficult. You look at what's in this product and they really can't find anything, whereas it's creating in people, anything from getting rid of their headaches to their genital herpes to 10 years of lymph gland boils and people are saying that they've tried everything. They take these RNA drops and it changes their life. But it's also got to do with, on the non-physical level, it is taking you out of your mind. In Alzheimer's, people who have Alzheimer's, they start to get healthy because their mind is no longer in worry format.
Right.
They're no longer conflicted.
Contacting the other half of the equation, and they're not addressed. That's what I love about homeopathy, is that it addresses the physical and the energy systems. And what we don't know about our energy systems is a lot more than most people do know. But I'm going to go check those out. I had not seen that on your site. But that fascinates me because, like you, I don't always need proof. If I've got evidence that it's working anecdotally with patients or clients, I'm at least going to try it myself, and then I can recommend it. Some people need the science, and that's fine. But for those people who have the spiritual side, who listen and talk to their what I call the intuitive body, they know what works for them. And so this is awesome. I mean, I'm right with you on that. In terms of what time we have left, I want you to focus on anything else because I'm thrilled that you mentioned that. Talk about anything else of importance that you want to make sure listeners have, because this is the launch of your book, and I'm thrilled that you're on my show for that, and I want to make sure I'll do everything I can to let people know about it.
Well, one of the sections in the book, Janet, I put the title, 56 Conditions Associated with Magnesium Deficiency. And I listed about 21 conditions in the original editions, but there are 56 conditions. There's acid reflux, adrenal fatigue, Alzheimer's, angina, anxiety and panic attacks, arthritis, asthma, atherosclerosis, and that's just the A's. It is incredible, the scope of magnesium, and it's something that people have to reference themselves, read about it and see themselves in it, migraines, any sort of musculoskeletal condition. And what people will say is it doesn't even need to be on an intuitive level for magnesium. You just look at these conditions and say, well, gosh, yeah, I've got cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these symptoms.
Right.
Here's the scenario. You go to your doctor, you're under massive stress. Someone's died in the family, you lost your job, whatever. The doctor doesn't even bother to ask. The nurse does your blood pressure, it's sky high, and the doctor says, go on this diuretic. Your stress is causing the high blood pressure, and magnesium is the treatment for stress-induced blood pressure, and most blood pressure, actually. But the diuretic is going to take more magnesium out. You come back a month later, your blood pressure's worse because you're lower in magnesium. You're put on a couple more drugs. One of them is a calcium channel blocker. So yes, they're right. You need to block the calcium, but you block it with magnesium, not a drug that will take out magnesium, because these drugs all have fluoride in them. And 2 months later, you're back for your blood test to make sure these drugs aren't, killing your liver. And all of a sudden, your blood sugar's up and your cholesterol is up, specifically because you're so low in magnesium. But the doctor will say, we caught this just in time, and here's 3 more drugs. So that's what we're faced with, and that's what we have to educate people about. And I do that every Monday on my radio show on Achieve Radio. It's at 4 p.m. Pacific. It's a call-in show. And I answer these, very delicate and complex questions about, what do I do next? And people are, they're in a real bind, because now with Obamacare, you're going to be sanctioned if you don't follow your doctor's advice, because they're the authority.
Well, and it's even worse than that, and we could talk about that for an hour. How did, not to distract from this because it's right on, but how do they get a hold of you through Achieve? Is it internet, or is it how do they get that?
Internet radio, achieveradio.com.
Okay, perfect. And then you're on Mondays?
Yes, Mondays at 4 p.m. Pacific. 2 hour show.
2 hours. And there's Q&A there, so that's great. I'll make sure I put that as a post so people can find you. We could go all day about what's going to happen. It's already starting to happen with the Obamacare, and that literally bean counters are telling people what they can do and can't do. I had a gentleman on that talked about this, and it's a whole subject that could have taken hours to speak about. And I personally think one of two things will happen. Those people who will fall into that system, they'll make it or they won't, and then it's going to drive people to look for people like you. It's going to say even more for those individuals who've had it, they're fed up with it, they're not going to do this. They'll find a way to invest in their health some way, and they're going to find alternatives.
Well, it's really crazy, because in 1 hour I can put people on a program that undoes decades of abuse, because of just giving them the basics of what they need. And let me just say this: we should mention that nutritionalmagnesium.org is our magnesium nonprofit, where you can get a free booklet on magnesium that I wrote, and tons of useful information that you can take to your doctor. Nutritionalmagnesium.org.
I've got that, and I will make sure it goes out on the blog so that number one, they can get the other free book off your main website, but there is a free book there, and I have been to that website. It's very good. So like you said, you're providing them. This isn't a leap of faith or intuition. This is science that has all the benefits of magnesium. So there isn't any way anybody can kind of scoot around that. Well, they can try, but there's so much information there. Besides your great book, the nutritional magnesium is there. And the book is available on my website, on Dr. Dean's website. It's on Amazon. I've got a link to that. So it's super easy for people, if they're on the show site, to order the book or go get the free stuff. Go ahead.
Right. Let me just say that I've noticed it's still on Amazon. They're saying that they're out of stock, and they can order and get the next book. Well, the next book is going to be the 3rd edition, so don't worry about that. They've just been very slow in putting up the new date of March 2014 edition. So if people want to pre-order, it's shipping tomorrow to Amazon.
Perfect. Well, they can easily get, and I'm sure with the new edition now hitting, they won't find that message. I'm sure they'll find it. But let's just say they don't want to spend the money. they can begin by getting your free materials, and once they're wowed by that, then I have no doubt they'll go after the book.
I don't need the royalty of 80 cents a book.
Absolutely not. You're not doing this completely for wealth. You're doing this because you're passionate. I understand completely. As I'm just, I'm filtering through the digital book that you sent me. I mean, there's just so many topics that I would just love to delve into. We've got about 3 minutes. Where would you like to go? Because I've got all this info, we've gotten it into the audio, and then I'll make sure it's posted. With the time we have left, would you like to tell more stories? Because people really like story. They love to hear it. Your gentleman with the IV was dramatic.
Right. What happens with a lot of people is they'll take magnesium, and it'll make them feel worse. I've had people call me up or email me and say, I took magnesium and my heart started palpitating and, I'm allergic to it. And what's going on? Well, I've written a blog about that, and I add to it every few days because, with other stories. So you can Google when magnesium makes me worse, and I think there's about 12 reasons I have there. You may not be taking enough. It's like you take a little bit of magnesium and you tease your body, and don't give it enough, but then these 800 enzyme systems, they want more, so they start, making you feel a little jangled. So you might not be taking enough, or you might take too much all at once. Then you'll get diarrhea, or you can get revved up, or you have low blood pressure, and it'll make you feel even more relaxed and a bit spacey, or you're on heart medications, and the heart medications are eating up your magnesium, or
there
the fluoride.
There's so many caveats to it. So it's called When Magnesium Makes Me Worse. We can put that in there, too. They can Google that.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Right. And this is the last one I'll say. When you're taking too much vitamin D, it uses up your available magnesium, and you can actually get really bad magnesium deficiency symptoms because I do not believe in this high-dose vitamin D. And you can Google my name and any question, and I've done so much. You'll probably find the answer.
It's all there. Well, I can't thank you enough. You are an amazing person, and you're right up my alley. Yeah, you and I get along great. We're on the same path. Although you have all the experience, I don't have the years of knowledge. Thank you for being with us. I will make sure the message on my end gets out. Good luck in all that you do. Bless you. Thank you for being on the show. All righty. You take care now. And thank you for listeners. Stay tuned to next week's show. We have Right to Heal author Jan Marquardt that's going to be with us. And thank you for being interested and invested in your health. Good luck. Take care, and bye-bye.